Get NFL Sunday Ticket at its lowest price ever and watch every game every Sunday. Take your NFL experience to even greater heights with NFL Sunday Ticket Deluxe, which gives you Red Zone, bringing you the final yards from around the league along with minute-to-minute NFL fantasy updates. Call us at 601-8992 to sign up today.
Tonight on NB12, is the Christie administration manipulating the murder count? A national security official says no.
Absolutely not. No.
A car thief caught on camera, another caught by police. We've got that story. Shantytown landowners could be prosecuted soon. Environmentalists urging the government to release information on Bimini Bay. Plus, principals share their expectations for the school year. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Amid deep skepticism about the 2013 murder count, the Minister of State for National Security has insisted the government is not in the business of doctoring crime statistics. Bell said the role of the Office of the Attorney General is critical in directing the classification of killings to ensure suspects are convicted. Vonik Toot reports.
Minister of State for National Security Keith Bell is seeking to set the record straight on the reclassification of murders. Questions on this year's murder count arose after police recently reclassified two killings that occurred back in July. However, Bell insisted today that officials are not doctoring crime figures.
Absolutely not. No. I mean, the point is you can do your own form of statistics gathering and analysis.
Confusion surrounding the actual murder count began last month. According to our records, jitney driver Gregory Adderley Jr. became this year's 71st murder victim when he was shot to death on August 20th, 2013. However, head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, insisted the correct figure at that time was actually 69, insisting two stabbing deaths recorded in July were not counted as murders and would be sent to the coroner's court for classification. Some people found this baffling, considering that in the killing of 36-year-old Elkin Moss, NB12 saw a bloody cutlass on the scene.
We've seen, as well, the police have seen, I've seen in my time any number of cases. I've gone to scenes where persons were shot, I've gone to persons where persons were butchered, any number of instances I can give you. And not because you see a cutlass or you have a smoking gun necessarily mean that it is a murder case. We've seen them. We've actually gone to, it could very well be someone defending their life or the right to property.
It's not the first time questions have arisen over the murder count. On July 17, 2012, the Nassau Guardian published an article titled 2012 Murder Count Unclear. At the time, police had reclassified two killings. The newspaper's record showed 74 murders. Police claimed the number was really 73. However, officials were unable to accurately satisfy the disparity. Bell dismissed the suggestion something is amiss, asserting that when police report a homicide, it doesn't necessarily mean the victim was murdered. He said that's why the involvement of the Attorney General's office is so critical.
Homicide is the big umbrella. It could be classified into murder, manslaughter, infanticide, suicide, any of those categories. So when you talk about classification, this is why the role of the Attorney General is so critical, her office, to look at these cases and to ensure that we put the right offense before a jury, because when you don't put the right and proper classification of offense before the jury, juries will not convict.
Furthermore, Bell says officials aren't so concerned about reclassifications, but rather bringing the number of murders down.
We're concerned about getting the numbers down to stop it. And obviously, it will call for drastic measures. We're going to be result-driven. You're going to see some things happening within the next month. We're going to change gears.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonik Toot.
Meantime, police have released the identity of the country's latest murder victim. 57-year-old Kesner Atlas was killed when he answered the door to his Sale Road home yesterday morning. Police say Atlas heard a knock at his door around 3 a.m. and when he answered it, he was shot several times by unknown gunmen. Two men were seen fleeing the scene just moments later. Anyone with information on this latest murder is asked to contact police at 919, Crime Stoppers at 328 Tips, or the nearest police station. Well, the fear of crime is still real for two women who were held up yesterday afternoon in broad daylight with dozens of potential witnesses around. And the entire ordeal was caught on camera. Christina McNeil has the details in this report.
A driver and her passenger still shaken up after they were carjacked in broad daylight in front of a business along this busy street. It's a crime business owners say should never have happened. The driver of a dark-colored car pulled up at Centerville Food Market shortly after 2 p.m. yesterday. The driver waits in the car as her passenger makes her way into the market with some difficulty walking. Minutes later, the woman emerges from the grocery store with a bag in hand. As she gets into the car, you can see a man with a towel over his head make his way across the street to the driver's door. No weapon is visible, but whatever the driver sees and hears from the suspect is enough to make her rush out of the car and to the aid of her passenger, who is still attempting to get safely out of the vehicle. The two women stand on the side of the busy thoroughfare as the assailant reverses onto 6th Terrace and then speeds off with another car close behind him. It takes the victims a few seconds to compose themselves before the driver, seen in the pink shirt, goes into the market for assistance. The whole ordeal went down in less than 2 minutes, and during that time at least 2 pedestrians and 8 cars passed by. Centerville Food Market owner Horace Miller says someone ought to have seen something that could have prevented the incident from happening. He recalls the days when police had foot patrols in the busy Centerville and Palmdale areas. Now he says that has changed. But the fear of crime is still high for business owners and customers in the area, especially when broad daylight crimes are pulled off in plain sight. But Superintendent Stephen Dean says yesterday's incident was likely an isolated one.
We haven't had no major incidents in that volume of crime in Centerville area, so it's not a major concern. There are isolated cases, so we don't have that major problem in Centerville area.
Police are analyzing their surveillance footage for any clues as to who the assailant is and where he may have been heading. In recent years, security footage has helped investigators crack cases. Dean says that's one proactive step business owners can take to fight crime. But he adds members of the public also have a responsibility to keep themselves and their personal items safe.
Surveillance is a critical tool. We ask persons to invest in surveillance, but we ask them additionally we ask them to maintain them, because sometimes we go to look at the surveillance videos or cameras and we find that they're not working, they are not properly maintained. So get reputable companies to get and update your system every time. Update so we can get clear view. The view is not blurred, and it will assist the police in crime fighting. We continue to preach the message of safety, because we believe that most crimes can be avoided if people take the necessary precautions. And we are asking persons to be alert of their surroundings, particularly when you pull up to places or if you're leaving business places. Just look around before you jump in your car. When you pull up, look, see if anything's suspicious, if anybody's watching. These are basic things you need to do. And always be prepared to move into your vehicle. If you go into your vehicle, have your keys ready from inside the house or inside the business place before you get there.
Police are still seeking to track down the stolen vehicle. Meanwhile, officers are questioning a 26-year-old man in connection with another incident involving stolen cars. Police say that man was caught stripping 4 vehicles believed to be stolen, 1 Nissan Maxima and 3 Honda Accords. Police say it is unclear if the 2 incidents are related. However, Dean adds that police are sending this message to carjackers and those who assist them.
We will know if the vehicles look suspicious, if it's in the bush or be hidden behind somebody's house as they're covering it up. And then we will have to put the warning out particularly to these roadside garages. We know that persons are taking vehicles to roadside garages to get them painted pretty quickly, to turn over, to repair parts, to take parts off. So we are putting the warning out to them. That the police will be coming after them. Police will be checking these business places. And we are saying to you that if any suspicious vehicle come in there, contact the police.
Anyone with information related to this or any other incident is asked to contact police at 919-911 or Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
A man accused of a string of gruesome murders in the late 80s and early 90s was resentenced today more than 2 decades after he was given the death penalty. In the Supreme Court this morning, Cyril Darville was sentenced to 55 years in jail for the 1990 murder of Anthony Feast. Jasmine Bonamy was in court and filed this report.
The resentencing comes a day after Darville's 51st birthday, with Justice Isaacs resentencing him to 55 years behind bars, but taking into consideration the years that Darville has already spent in prison. The Supreme Court sentence, which was handed down by Senior Justice John Isaacs, runs from August 1992, the original date of conviction. The new sentence means the now 51-year-old has 34 more years of prison time. This is the second time Darville has appeared in court in a matter of weeks. The former butcher at City Market was originally charged with 8 counts of murder on May 16, 1990, and in August 1992 was convicted of only Feast's murder. He was 26 at the time. Darville was then sentenced to death and lost his appeal to that sentencing on October 4, 1994. Authorities read a death warrant to Darville in 1996, but his execution was stayed on the grounds that he was insane. But today he was resentenced as a result of the 2006 Privy Council ruling that deemed the mandatory death sentence unconstitutional. This morning, Justice Isaacs resentenced Darville to 55 years at HMP and said he would take into account the 21 years he had already served. Before handing down the sentence, probation officer Janice McKenzie testified that Darville expressed remorse. She added that prison officials lauded Darville's work ethics. She also noted that it was probable and possible that the convicted killer concealed his true nature as he did in the past. Darville's lawyer, Dorsey McPhee, argued that his client should be released from prison in 3 years, and until then, spend his remaining time in prison taking construction courses so he could be properly reintegrated into society. McPhee said his client was a changed man. Lawyer for the Attorney General's office, Koshina Marshall, argued that Darville be given a much stiffer penalty of 30 to 60 years, noting that the 51-year-old had 2 previous convictions of gun possession and armed robbery, and had 3 infractions noted on his prison record. While handing down his ruling, Justice Isaacs noted that he took into account the probation report and Darville's prior convictions, saying they did nothing to deter Darville from committing the murder he was convicted of. During much of the proceedings, Darville sat stoically, gazing down until he was asked if he had anything to say. Addressing the court, he apologized to God, the victim's family, his own family, and the entire country. Outside court, Darville's lawyer revealed that he was distraught about the situation and hinted that there may be plans to appeal.
I think it's a little harsh, but I have to respect the judge's decision at all times. There's a possibility that he could appeal if he wished. For anybody, that's a long time. So I think he's distraught. I know he's distraught.
Shortly after court adjourned, Darville was taken back to Her Majesty's prison to serve out the remainder of his sentence. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.